Welcome back, Mr. Emmanuel Mock, the National Chairman of National Transformation Party, joins us next. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you, and good morning, viewers.
Well, I'm sure you've gone through and observed some of the amendments that are going on with the Electoral Act with view to improving our elections. Well, from the ones you've seen, do you think we are at least on course for now?
Well, from all the things I've seen, I want to be cautious. I want to be cautious because I feel, if you look at the last Edo elections, I feel the issues are not the laws. The issues for me are the implementation of the laws. From the amendment issues that they are putting on the table, they want to continue going with the card readers. And I have seen the card readers to be a failure. I have seen the card readers to be a way of disenfranchising voters.
You don't think we can improve upon it?
Well, if we want to improve upon the card reader process, by now INEC should have been distributing voter cards.
Tell us specifically then, what did you see? Let's know where we can correct from.
Okay. The card readers are not sensitive enough. One. In that, if you remember the last election, the president wanted to vote. Even in the place where I voted, there were almost fights because somebody comes with his card reader, the machine does not recognize the person, and his picture is on the card.
Yeah, but that's part of the amendments here. They are saying that if the electoral officer or the presiding officer certifies that the card reader is malfunctioning, he or she can assume the use of manual voting by ascertaining the names on the voters' register.
That's good. That's good. But why make it so complex? Why not we look at the Americans just finished voting and they didn't have these issues. In their votes, we should focus on making the technical aspects of the elections foolproof. You go to the bank today to do your BVN. You don't have any of those problems. Why don't they focus on getting the right equipment so that when we go to vote, we don't have problems? The issues of the amendments of the Electoral Act that they are talking about, if you look at the OIS report, they almost are not paying attention to it, if you ask me, because they are focused on diaspora voting in what they're trying to do. They are continuing to hold on to the card reader in spite of its failures that were not properly, that had not been checked. INEC is not going about distributing voter cards or registering new voters. Because if you remember in the last election, President Jonathan had about 12-something million votes with a lot of claims of rigging. President Buhari had about 15 million votes with a lot of claims of rigging. If Nigeria has a population of 170 million people, we are talking about, between the two of them, about 25 million votes.
What do you think will take away that claim of rigging?
Well, first, the technical aspects of the electoral voting process. We need to get equipment that works.
Isn't the card reader usage part of it?
Well, if you remember, just before the elections, President Jonathan almost wanted to discard the use of card readers. They had the Council of State meeting on the matter. INEC was called to come and give a report why they should continue. Because of that, they said they should do a test case. During that test case, it came out with 52% success rate. 52% is a failure. Because if you have 100 million people to vote, in America, the last American elections, more than 100 million voters voted. So if you had 100 million people to vote in Nigeria, 48 million people were not going to vote just because of the card reader.
But we saw that after that test case,
yes,
when the elections then came proper, those states that performed poorly had excellent results.
That's because you heard of all the cases of rigging and all of that. The last elections, you cannot verify that election as being an authentic fact. A lot of people were fighting for their voter cards, couldn't get. In fact, the president himself said that how can they have gotten, there was a statement credited to him, that how can they say they had gotten 1-something million votes when they didn't have voter cards? I read something like that. In Ogun State, even almost on the eve of the election, people were fighting at INEC office to get their voter cards. This is a technical, this is a fundamental thing. INEC should distribute voter cards.
Isn't it? I mean, when you say the distribution was poor, that's different from when it's a clear technical challenge.
The clear technical challenge was 52%. That's a failure. You can't use 52%. You can't use a technology that gives you...
Do you have an alternative to the card reader as it is now? Because if we go by the mark you've awarded, which is understandable, 52% is not too good a point for anyone. But Are you, as chairman of a political party, you should be having an idea of what you think INEC can do to remedy that particular situation?
What I believe INEC should do, because you see, for an election to be acceptable, for an election to solve Nigeria's problem, that election should capture the will of the majority of the Nigerian people. And the way to do that, if you want to use card reader system, get a good technology. The banks have equipment that work. I'm sure India had an election where almost more than 600 million people voted in India, and they didn't have issues of credibility of the election. I believe that these people in charge, they are not being fair to the Nigerian people and the amount of money being spent by INEC. 60 billion, 100 billion naira, and you can't get the right technology. The last American elections were going on almost a month before the final day. Even people in Nigeria went to the embassies to vote, and they were credible. Ours is different. The equipment is wrong. The officers are fraudulent all across the board, both the security officers and all. We need a system, equipment that will insulate us, the people, from the fraud of these people. Okay. And the way I see it is, take a company like IBM. Take a company like IBM. If INEC would give IBM or its class of Apple or its class of, the monies we are spending is enough to get this done. They set up a software for Nigeria and the right equipment so that on the day of election with our Intersat, you can vote here in channels, even if it's for your local government election in your village. We can get those equipment. And INEC on the technical side should begin to register people and give them their cards. I have an ATM card. I used it you travel abroad, you use a Nigerian ATM card. It works. So if I have a voter card, in fact, in the US elections, you don't need to have only the election body's one. Even your social security card, your driver's license card, is accepted when you come with it as long as it identifies you.
That doesn't mean it's foolproof.
Yes, it doesn't mean it's foolproof. That's on the back end, the software end, what they can do with the data they get.
We still have a lot of reports about programmers who write programs, who defraud customers, and it's huge.
I hear. Good. But then those are problems. You see, when you have a problem and you identify the problem, you can solve it. The beginning of our own problem is first to have the right equipment. People are being disenfranchised by just not having their voter cards. That's a fundamental one. Millions of people. You shouldn't have 170 million people going to election and 25 million people are the only ones credible to vote.